All right, now we are going to talk about the Dockerfile. So the Dockerfile is the actual definition of your Docker container. It's where you set your base image, it's where you install all your packages, it's where you copy all your files, you run wgets, you do whatever you need to do in the Dockerfile. And a single Docker file corresponds to a single Docker image. So that's the way that relationship goes. Later on in the course, I'm going to show you how you can use another type of file called a Docker Compose file, which is where you can actually take multiple Docker images and multiple Docker builds and compose them all into multiple services that can then talk to each other. But for right now, we're working on just a single Docker file, and I'm just going to go over a bit what that looks like, what it's all about, and what happens. So here we go. Here's the Docker file. Right up here, the very first thing that I'm going to do is I am going to set my base image. In this case, this is from Continuum.io, the Miniconda 3 image. They also have like a Miniconda that's based off of Python 2. Miniconda 3 is based off of Python 3, which of course we all want these days because I think Python 2 has finally reached the end of its life. And then you have the tag. If you're not sure about this, the tag generally corresponds to the version. It's always a very good idea to actually tag your images. I can't stress this enough. So if you want to go and you want to find the tags for your images, what you would do is you would go to Docker Hub or Quay or like wherever the image is actually stored, and you go to tags and you find your tag right here. So there's nearly always going to be a latest tag. I recommend that you don't use that. Find the actual tag. I don't remember which one I'm on. But okay, then go and copy and paste this tag and use this tag so that then you always know exactly which image you're building from. So once we have that, so from defines the base image. And just so that you know, the Docker file, it starts off with these directives. Every line has one of these directives. There's from, there's run, there's copy, there's env, and then there's command, which we don't have here, but I'm still going to tell you about what it is. So just to get back to that, okay, so we have our from. This is our base image we're building from. We have run. That's pretty self-explanatory. We are running some command during build time. This is important. When you do run, it's when the application is building. Later, in a few minutes, we're going to talk about command, and that is actually at runtime. So when you're actually running your Docker container, that's what happens. So once we have that, copy a file relative to your root, relative to your project rather, and then it's just like copying a file like when you normally copy a file. Except that here it's host and then current working directory in your container. So for this particular container, that is /root. And then later on, I'm going to show you how you would actually go and bring up an interactive shell, like just a regular bash shell, in your Docker container in case you ever need to figure out anything like that. But for this one, you can just know, because I've already figured it out for you, that it is /root. And in this case, we don't even need to know that anyways. So I'm copying, I'm running. You can see a theme here. More copying, more running, and then env. These are setting environmental variables. So env conda.exe is equal to / all these things. So very, very much what it looks like in the shell. Just make sure that you have it env, the environmental variable, space, and then the value. And then the command is what is going to happen at runtime. So you could have something like this. Of course, you would have something real, but then when you actually went to run the container, this is what would execute. And this is actually a really, really handy thing to do. What you can do is you can actually set up your Docker container to basically be like a command line utility, where the person who's running it just says docker run container, passes in the arguments, and then you have like a nice handy helper function right here that actually runs it. And then also, if you're doing something like starting a web server, you'll often see that on runtime, the web server just starts up and it's right here and it goes. So that's it for the Dockerfile. These are the most important things. I hope you can see you have a line. It starts off with the Docker directive. It's pretty clear. running, you're copying files around, you're setting environmental variables, pretty much just like you always do. And that's it. I'm gonna get rid of this. Okay, and now that we've done this, we're actually gonna move on and get into the nitty-gritty details of how we actually go and build this base image. Thanks.